service catalogue, and I hope we can have the opportunity to explore that. So this event this morning is part of a series that Digital Europe has run called Cloud in Practice. And the idea has been to get under the skin of some of the issues of cloud, to see what they're really about in practice. Because as I think, as President Ilves and Mario both said, there's a lot of people talk a lot about cloud with very little knowledge, it seems to me. And I think to have such a fantastic panel to really help us get understanding, get really under the skin of the issues, well, I personally found that a very, very good set of contributions, and I hope you did too. Now, this series that Digital Europe runs to look at different aspects of the cloud is all run under the auspices of something in Digital Europe called the Cloud Council. And if I may, I'd just like to ask the chair of our Cloud Council to say 90 seconds about that. Jean-Jacques Sahel. We agreed a minute, but I've just extended his remit by 50%.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that. Having more than 60 seconds. Good morning, everyone. Moi, Mr. President. Tere, moi. It's a pleasure to be here. I work for the same company as Dejan, but I actually come from a Baltic company originally that's now part of Microsoft. That actually adopted a cloud as its logo already back in 2005, because it was a company that was effectively born in the cloud before it was called the cloud. It was Skype. And to me, the cloud is really exciting, both because I think that Europe's got a real potential in it, but also because we have to move to the cloud. And this is one of the things that motivated us to create the Cloud Council at Digital Europe. And the mission of the council, which was actually started on the same day as the ECP on the 4th of July, I think that was our first meeting. The mission is very much to make Europe a world-leading cloud economy and cloud society. To do that, we need to raise awareness generally in the public, so that end users are happy to use the cloud, adopt the cloud, and same with businesses. We need to enable SMEs to understand what a cloud is, to understand how a safe, secure, and private cloud can develop. And we need to engage with policymakers to explain to them what it's about and work with them to encourage that adoption in the public sector. We've got a lot of work to do, and Digital Europe is working hard on that. And for anyone in the room that would like to get engaged, please talk to me, or to John, or to colleagues at Infobelt. And we need as much help as possible to really make people understand that beyond all the debates and the media hype, there's actually a technology which Europe needs to not only adopt, but actually lead in globally, so that it actually remains a relevant region in the 21st century. Europe needs to be a cloud champion globally. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jean-Jacques. So I promised you half an hour for discussion and questions, and that is exactly what we have. Let me get the ball rolling with two questions while you think. And Vilma, do we have microphones for the audience as well? Yes. So the usual thing, if you want to make a contribution, please put up your hand and say who you are. But two things, one for you, Mario, and one for you, President Ilves. Mario, this point about structural funds being geared to the acquisition of assets rather than services does seem to be a bit like shooting ourselves in the foot here from a cloud perspective. Have you any thoughts about how we might resolve that? Is that something that we could fix? And President Ilves, you mentioned this sharing of data between your government, so I think particularly say between yourself and Finland. This idea of a shared data area has got, some people have jumped on this and said, oh, well, that's great, that's a sort of Fortress Europe approach, which I think is another example of misinformation. I wondered if you might just explain what the thinking is in the cloud partnership about this shared data area. So, Mario, can we maybe ask you to address this first question?
I think that what became quite clear in all these presentations, I appreciate some of the presentations that went more into some social aspects of the deployment of cloud, because clearly this is not only a matter for technology, it's not only a matter for research, is not even only a matter for traditional innovation, because there is legislative domains. I mean, there is even in some countries, I mean, where the fact that you simply try to bring some servers from different authorities, regional, national, into one single server cannot be done because the constitution of the country itself prevents it to be done. And in the structural funds, we are exactly in this situation. I mean, I'm very glad that it was referred twice here today, but when I was recently in Poland, and I have here Anna also from the European Social Committee that is very worried about that, because indeed, when we go to the real life, and when people, procurers want to really buy things, the framework, the legal framework, almost prevents to acquire services because it favors having its own computer, its own software, its own license, etc. So that's something that we have to overcome. And this is particularly pressing when we come to new member states that really want to use structural funds to overcome some of or to go into a cloudification of the structures, and we find this. So this is certainly something that we have to address. But I want to say that this is just part of the big picture. I mean, is the understanding, the acceptance. I mean, it's not mine, it's shared. So I mean, I lose something. It's like if we lose something of our own. So there is a lot of efforts that we do, and I wanted to take this opportunity to appreciate Digital Europe efforts to get this really understood by big quantities of people. So procurement we need to work. It's particularly important when link it to structural funds, and we are working with some of our colleagues in DG, in the DG responsible to overcome that. Thank you.
Well, let me just clarify one thing. First of all, we're not talking about Finns looking at Estonian data or vice versa. We're talking about a service that operating on a common flat platform, and that's an architecture that is then trustworthy and highly developed, that can be used by Finns, that can be used by Estonians, and that can be used by citizens or card holders anywhere in the two countries, and access the services that are connected to this software. So it's, as I said, the drugstore. So it's not that we're looking at that we have a common data, that we have common data or common access to data. This is the key thing to understand. And for me, what I say is that while we are talking about, in this case, government services, or at least or services that are private sector ultimately, but moderated or modulated by the government, and it is the only thing that is capable of doing this. We would like to see much more private sector possibilities here. We have to all admit that digital commerce, cross-border commerce, is somewhere in the Stone Age compared to where it is in the United States. And when everyone's complaining about how our economies are doing badly, we are not removing the legal barriers or the technological and architectural barriers to actually getting this thing moving and working. I'll give you a good example, I mean, which is sort of, I mean, kind of banal, but I mean, I have iTunes. I have friends who have iTunes. But because of the way things are regulated, probably because of VAT issues, if I order a friend of mine for his birthday a record, or I mean a recording on iTunes, if he's in a different country, or if he has a different country's credit card, I can't do it, which is stupid. I mean, it really is stupid because there's no reason why it should not work. I mean, they, you know, Amazon or Apple already has my card. I'm paying for it. The person cannot have access to it because of very silly, so those are, I mean, and I think of, I mean, just on just one person, maybe I give 5 people a year this thing, but that's all part of the economy that is not being developed because this purely private sector thing doesn't work in Europe. There is no problem with that in Europe, I mean in the United States, So they're making a lot more money than we are. Let me just clear one thing up also on the first issue. I mean, I think it's really stupid, and I would agree with who's said here, to put money into a lot of hardware data centers when the problems, as with what I just talked about, what is preventing development of the cloud, of cloud services, of cross-border commerce are legal, architectural, and technical issues. So it's kind of like putting huge amounts of money into concrete, but never really planning where the exits are on the highway that you're building with huge amounts of structural funds. It's really dumb. And so, or not dealing with the fact that you in fact have to build entrance and exit ramps and just worrying about having big highways. It's of course easy to do that. We know, I think all of our countries in the European Union know that it's a lot easier to have a big expensive project we can get a lot of money for, which doesn't require much thinking. But when it comes to this area of spending money, I would say don't spend it on building data centers, spend it on resolving first the architectural and technical and legal things that prevent us from moving forward.
Okay, so that's given you the opportunity, I hope, to reflect on some questions you might want to ask yourselves. So is there anybody who'd like to ask a question or make a contribution from the audience? Thank you. There's a lady here. If you could, Vilma, get her a microphone. Thank you. If you could introduce yourself before you...
Yes, of course. Anna Nietyksza. I am coming from European Economic and Social Committee, Digital Agenda Group. Mario just mentioned our discussion. I am also President of Eurocloud Poland Association and a member of Eurocloud Council in Luxembourg. So, my question is relating to all you said, gentlemen. How can we, in practice, change this government approach, specifically in Eastern European countries and Central European countries, to not to build government data centers which will serve local governments? This is the tendency, in fact, now in planning structural funds. And I was in consultations by the Polish government, and I just learned that we will build another data centers to serve local governments, and we will build data centers on local level, on regional level, on central level, and that will be cloud. So it's something wrong in it. But the question is that I think the real input should come from the Commission, because otherwise there is a lot of concerns about security now, and the main concern of the Polish Minister of Digitization I was talking to, it's just okay, well, but what about safety and security? How do you guarantee? And then you come into technical discussion. So just a comment about it, and I would also ask and call for an education awareness campaign, but using media and concrete practice case studies. It's very, very needed in our countries, and we are planning, and we are just finalizing planning of huge amount of structural funds for the Central European countries. Well, let's say in all the member states, it's much easier to come with it. In the new ones, it's very, very complicated. And just by the end, I would like just to mention that as we achieved the accession of the new member states to the European Union, it was possible, even if it were so many concerns about it. I was director of the European Commission campaign, awareness campaign in Poland and Bulgaria, and it was possible to convince church that it's and nationalistic some approaches to join the EU. It will be certainly possible to convince, administration, government, and some reluctant people or organizations to join cloud idea. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm not sure it's just the new countries that have the problem. Admittedly, my information is a little out of date now, but 2 years ago, when the UK government was looking at cloud, or maybe 3 or 4 actually, the response was, yes, we'll have cloud, we'll have our own cloud, we'll call it the government cloud, and in fact, we'll start by rationalizing the data centers, except we're not quite sure how many data centers we have, so that will take quite a long time just to rationalize the data centers. Timo, are you actually using public cloud in Finland, or are you using your own cloud?
We are actually doing the both. So for example, in a municipal level, some municipalities, they use proper cloud services. And those are very good for the smallest and medium-sized municipalities. But of course, as I mentioned in my speech, we have lots of infrastructure, and we have to decide which of this we will keep, and we will have, and at the moment we have a private cloud, and we have a private cloud for all the high security needs, and high availability and high continuity requirements. And then we have all the rest, which can be in a public cloud.
Do you think, I wasn't sure I quite understood your idea, but was your idea a sort of like an app store for Europe, really, so that a government or a municipality in Finland could say, do you know, I need an application to manage my public housing. Oh, here's one I can use. I'll just use it straight away. Would that address a real market need, do you think, this idea of an apps store for the public sector?
Yes, it would. For example, there is at the moment the Office 365 is used by some Finnish municipalities from the Microsoft cloud. So it's possible, but I think we all agree that we would like to have European producers in that kind of services more.
Let me just come back to one thing, just because we still continue to think in these sort of, and when it comes to cloud and even discussions here, that there are these big centers. You don't need centers. You don't need any centers. You probably could use them. But my point is, how did we come upon our solution? It was that we were too poor 15 years ago to build a separate data center that would handle all government things, which then we said, how do we solve this? Well, then we came up with an architectural solution based on the idea of an enterprise service bus, and we just made a distributed system in which you could access. There's no reason why you need to have it all in one place and then spend all that money on cooling huge servers, and then you say, wow, we have a data center. You don't need that. And so the idea, if you have the proper architecture and the proper level of security, it doesn't matter where your data are. And given where RSA 2048 is today, please, you could store it on NSA servers if they were willing to rent it to you. It doesn't matter. They can't get in. And we need to get everyone away from this idea of spending huge amounts of money on having big boxes somewhere that are expensive to cool. And this also touches upon the issue of national legislation, again based on some idea that it belongs to a different century, that you cannot store data outside your national borders. If you have the right level of security, You can store your data, you know, store it in the People's Republic of China, store it in Russia, fine. They're not going to get at it. I mean, and the issue of security, if you really think about it, I mean, they're not getting into well-encrypted data. You know, it's the dumb guy who downloads the keystroke logger onto his government PC, and everything he writes there goes off somewhere. It's not what is being transmitted between or across borders.
Anybody else want to, yes, come in? So Mario and then Xavier. Yeah, Mario can, so Mario will use that one and then David.
Just very briefly, but I mean, two concepts that since we started the implementation of the cloud strategy come continuously in our discussions, I think that are structuring to what we are discussing here. One is something like a cloud-first strategy. This means before you do something, think if you can do the same in a better way through cloud. And the second one is this concept of shared data area. It's very complex. I mean, it has to do with data protection. It has to do with aspects of data location and data location restrictions. It has to do with procurement, public procurement. But I think that if we would be able, and with all respect, sometimes we say the Commission has too, and I think that it's very nice and very kind of all of you to make these references. But I think that this is a collective endeavor. It will not be able to overcome it without member states, without even regional and local authorities. We see already some convergence in the reduction of the number of storage centers, going out of the logic that I have to have my own, Even at ministerial level, we see that different ministers, always find that they have a reason to consider that they have to be stored somewhere in a kind of a private storage room for them. But so, if we are able to collectively pass this message of data, of cloud first, with or without incentives, but a cloud first strategy, coupled with a shared data area concept that is developed, I think that we can make Europe really, advance strongly on that.
So Xavier and then Diane, come on.
Thank you. I have to say that I would really love to be in the situation to have the government customers speaking the way that President Ilves speaks. Mr. Ilves, you understand it and you articulate it in a way that is such a common sense that, obviously, when I speak that way, government customers say, yeah, he's coming from the vendor company. But when the government official of your rank is speaking, this is, I believe, the best possible way to advocate and to ensure the penetration of the ideas about public cloud computing. So if it is at all possible to have your voice being even stronger, I think that that approach would make a difference. Now, I'm not advocating for fragmentation of Europe or Fortress Europe or things like that. But today, we face the barriers around data protection, data location, and, sometimes I am engaged in the endless discussions around those. So, in order not to lose time, in order not to waste time and wait for the changes in the legislations that will happen one day, but who knows when, the cloud computing industry does have the alternative. And, some of us call those alternatives national clouds. And again, I don't want to advocate for the fragmentation because today we do have the opportunity to make national clouds in order to ensure this data sovereignty that everybody's talking about. But if we make national clouds based on industry standards, ensuring the interoperability, ensuring the easy moving of applications from national clouds to the public clouds when the right time is, then we can progress today. And for some countries, for some bigger countries that have big governments, that have chief information office and chief information officer, they can afford to build those national clouds at the government level. But for the smaller countries, I actually encourage engaging and creating a public-private partnership with telecommunication companies, with postal companies. Telcos are losing business because PSTN networks are dying. Post companies are losing business because traditional post business is going down. But they have the skills and the capabilities to build the cloud infrastructure for the country, to offer services both for public sector and private sector customers, and again, using the common cloud European framework that we are responsible to build, ensure a seamless transition to the public cloud when the timing is right. This is, one of the suggestions. Thank you.
Well, it's really interesting. You are speaking about the Posta, and yes, you all have to know that the Posta are a terrific economic agent for cloud nowadays in the EU. We have just built a fantastic partnership with the Posta Slovenia, enabling Posta to come to new businesses and to serve and to participate to a network of providers with a single service catalog in the EU. So I absolutely agree with what you said. I just wanted to, yes, thank you, President, for what you said, because I need to say that as my Microsoft colleague, it's somebody in your stature can speak about that. And I believe we all need to understand that there is a difference in the cloud between what I call the service catalog, what is all the application layer, the service itself made of data attributes of applications and connectivity to some infrastructure and the infrastructure. I am not, for my side, on a global public cloud. I am for, according to the right service level agreement, because you use this application, it can go to a private, a public, or even a traditional. Why not? Why not? Some cases it's very important. And today it's working. It is working. What is not happening is that for all the developers in the EU member states, they do not see a willingness and a policy and an influence in order we create this right standard platform to develop application that could be on a global, as you said, app store, but it's not the right word, but for the understanding of the people, it may be interesting. And when you execute this app store, it may go and operate on any kind of data centers in the EU. Today, it's possible. We are doing that with some of the 60 cloud providers that we have been powering here in the EU. And really, it's a real hope for the EU if we want to undertake this way.
Thank you. Anybody else want to come in with a point from the audience? Oh, yes.
Yeah, my name is Hannes Astok, coming from Estonia, from President's staff. I'd like to underline the question of data integrity, what was mentioned here already a couple of times. Because for me as a citizen, I think the data integrity is the main concern if my data is somewhere in the cloud or wherever. If the data is stolen, let's say my health record is stolen, the damage for me can be that the health insurance company will just charge from me a little bit more money because they know how many holes I have in my teeth. But if somebody is changing my blood group from rhesus positive to rhesus negative and I get by accident to the hospital, so they probably drop me in the wrong blood and I'm just dead. If somebody is stealing the records about my property, okay, just somebody will know what I own, what is almost public in Estonia anyway. But if somebody is changing a couple of numbers in this record, probably I do not own this property anymore, because the only basis for the property is the digital register now. So I think if we are discussing about the protection of the data, it's not about stealing, how to protect it from stealing or copying it, but the main question, how to ensure that it's still integral, it's still the same. So whatever solutions are, it must be considered also that whatever time stamping, whatever you provide as a solution for it, but it must be considered in the standards also. Thank you.
That's a very good point. Anyone else want to come in with any points or questions? So let me, we're 5 minutes from the end, which gives us just under a minute each for a final remark. What final conclusions would you draw? What would be the one point that you would make that would help public administrations in Europe adopt cloud computing in an appropriate and sensible way, that in turn would help Europe become a center for cloud expertise and take full advantage of all the benefits that cloud can offer? What's your one thought about how public administrations could drive us down that route? Let's do it in reverse order, if you can remember your order. So Xavier, your final thought.
Yeah, you know, I will just come to what I said. It is a global service catalog platform, independent from the data center location, independent, and you know, inside or outside, because could connect to this platform everybody on the planet, and we need also to stimulate the ideas coming from outside. I believe that we are building towns. If you want to enter the town, if you see a big wall, you don't want to enter. And remember, in Berlin, we have broken the wall. What is happening today, it is circulation. Now, if you want to circulate to the right house, you need to know where it is located. And today, my feeling is that we should tell to the small and business or medium business what they can consume into the cloud from a single pane of place. If not, they will not consume.
I will just say one sentence. Open data applications will improve lives of the citizens and immediately generate a further demand for public cloud computing and create new jobs in the information technology industry, because many developers will be required to build those applications. Thanks.
Yeah, I like the idea of Mario of this cloud-first policy or strategy. So if the government would think in those terms of if they want to buy something as an investment, first to think maybe they can do that on the cloud, that would improve situation, definitely.
Yes, I would say one word: transparency, full transparency, because I believe that both businesses and citizens totally deserve to see what's happening regardless of what governments do.
So I think if we speak about cloud computing, there should be correct legal regulation, the financing model, the economic impact assessment, and then the most importance on the creation of e-content in the end. Yes.
I think that the public sector should start benefiting and learning from cloud as soon as possible. I think that there is lot of things to learn still in cloud, in the possibilities of the cloud, and we should start as early as possible, and whatever level, that's not important. Even in the agency level, just move to cloud and learn as you go. The supply side can help the public sector to try cloud services, keeping the upfront costs very low, and designing models where public sector just pays as it goes, monthly payments and elastic payments up and down. Those are very important issues.
So Mario.
I think that the internet economy as we know it is going to be catalyzed around big data, Internet of Things, and cloud. So we are really in the core of the future drivers for the internet economy. And in this respect, although we have created the European Cloud Partnership that we, distillate into a steering board and a real partnership, I'm calling here for a real partnership, broader partnership between private and public sector. The public sector, through our project C4 Europe, is coming together, not without difficulty, I must say. We don't find really an easy going on getting sensible budgets to exercise tests on public procurement and even less on cross-border public procurement. But I'm also appealing on the private sector to engage in providing us with the best practices and to really make a partnership with the public sector, and also supporting our particularly important network of small and medium enterprises. They are so important for the economy in Europe, and they can benefit greatly by a cloud-first approach. Thanks.
Okay, I think probably what you really need is to get every EU government to cabinet minister level, sort of a 2-day seminar on what it all means. Because, I think too many people are thinking in a 20th or 19th century paper world, and the objections they have to all kinds of things come from thinking they don't understand what is possible to do with these days, with data, how to do it, how to secure it, how to protect it, how to maintain data integrity. And so the chasm between the ultimate policymakers and the reality that we face is so huge that you get suggestions to do a European NSA or something like that. This is the problem, I think, ultimately, because they're political decisions to say, okay, why don't we do this? But if you have people going for 19th century, or think in 19th century terms, and exploit populism that way, in terms of preventing all the things that we need to do, then we will remain stuck. And so I would say, basically, maybe the European Union can provide every member state's cabinet with a 2-day seminar. I think it would save a lot more money for all of us.
Well, look, let's do a deal then. So if you send the invitations and you get them to come, I will definitely get the industry to provide all the technical expertise, and I'm sure with Mario's help we could get a good smattering of a good gathering of the chief information officers together to give their perspective on it as well. So I'm sure if you'd agree to send the invitations out and get them to come, I'm sure we could put a 2-day event together that would make a huge difference. I think that's a great idea, and I'm definitely up for that if you are. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're just a few minutes after 11. We'll hand back to Vytautas, our host here. I've enjoyed your contributions. I've enjoyed very much the panel's contributions. I hope you will join me in giving them a big round of applause while we ask our host back to the stage.
Thank you for a nice discussion. We understand that creating new services, especially using open data, it will increase drastically the use of the cloud computing. And we Lithuanians sometimes feel a little complex that Estonians all the time are in front of us. So on this case, we would like to show that sometimes we also could be smart. And based on this, our discussion, we immediately create a new service. So please, Augustas Alešiūnas, bring this Lithuanian so-called nose. This nose we would like to give a present as a present to Mr. President of Estonia, and it doesn't mean that this nose will allow us Lithuanians to be inside of the IT affairs of the Estonians, but it will allow us, if the data, of course, will be put on the cloud computing, really you, your family, or your friends are using fresh meat and fish when you are going to the restaurant. And we will be glad if you will share this information with us.
Dear Mr. President, from the side of Lithuania, it's a great honor for me today to present you the unique and the first in the world electronic nose for households in everyday use. And this device detects all kind of different levels of freshness for meat, poultry and fish. So whenever you go to the shop or to the supermarket or the market, you can know exactly immediately, is it good for you to eat or better to throw it away? And let me show you quickly how does it work, if it's possible. So can I take it? Yeah, thank you. The electronic nose is connected to the smartphone, to the app, and it inhales different type of gas to itself. Please, could you turn it on? Yesterday we bought some chicken, so it should be like average level of freshness. And let's try to do that. I just need to press on the app that this is the chicken. Yeah. It inhales now, right now. It's doing something. And if you inhales, then the app like trying to do some kind of average calculations. It takes a couple of seconds, and immediately you can know the recommendation and the possibility to get sick or to have a nice meal for you immediately. So now it shows, you see, three. It says that it's average and you can eat it, but you can eat it at your own risk. So, yeah. So it's one more time, it's a great honor that today we will present you the prototype of the electronic nose, and we will give you a certificate that you will be the first person in the world who will receive international shipment, and it should be in the next January. So thank you very much and be safe. And this is also like complimentary to use it in the kitchen if you like, you know, to do some steak.
But please promise that you will share with us this information, what kind of meat you are eating.
Thank you.